Many people have asked how I felt about competing in a private event, meaning no screaming fans, just pure silence. So I'll start by answering that. I think it actually played to my advantage because I felt less pressured because my opponent was Singapore's hometown hero, Singapore's first professional MMA fighter, and I heard a lot of people wanted him to win. I was actually going into the fight as the underdog, so if there was an audience, perhaps I would have heard some boos and may have affected me mentally. My research told me my opponent was a striking specialist, and I thought he would stand and bang with me. So going into this fight, I had already expected Radim to either dodge or check my low kicks or shoot for a takedown. Not because my opponent was Radim, but because I make the assumption that all my opponents have studied the endless sparring footage I have on my YouTube channel and learned that I love low kicks. So I feinted some punches, and you can see I was about to throw a kick here, but I hesitated because he backed up quite a bit and I would have probably missed. You will see later in the breakdown how I fixed that problem. So here I threw an inside low kick to see Radim's reaction. Radim returns and lands a long lead hook. Thinking back, I'm not sure why I didn't block or even react to it. Maybe it's the ring rust. I engage again with my lead hook to an overhand right as I simultaneously slipped my head to the left. Radim threw a counter jab at the same time as I moved in, but I was able to dodge the jab because I slipped to the left as I threw the overhand. Radim immediately changed levels and looked for a takedown, but I shut it down with an underhook and crossface, and immediately reshot for my own takedown. I shot for a single leg takedown with my head on the inside and immediately transitioned to a double leg by letting go of my left hand and reaching for Radim's other leg. I tried to finish a double leg variation where I lifted his legs up to the right while I fell to my left shoulder, but he was against the cage and all his weight was on his right leg, so I had a difficult time dumping him on that side. So instead I reversed the takedown by lifting his legs up to the left side and falling to my right shoulder. However, Radim did a great job at hip heisting by posting on his left hand, lifting his hips in the air and driving his left leg and rear end against the cage to scramble back on his feet. He then overhooks my right arm and sprawls to continue defending. Radim had his right arm around my neck, so I decided to bail on the takedown to avoid the guillotine. So I postured up and slipped my head out of his arm and controlled his right wrist with my left wrist. After watching my fight, I thought to myself, why did I even go for the takedown? My game plan was to stand and bang, but it's because I've drilled into my brain to surprise my opponent with a takedown if I ever tie up with them. I teach this concept in my full MMA curriculum, the MMA Striker. Check it out in the description box if you haven't yet. So I decided to go back to my game plan and disengage to stand and bang. I framed off his neck with my lead arm and pushed away, just dodging his left hook. So this time I thought I'd go up high. I leaped in with a lead hook as I shuffled to the left to create an angle for my rear high kick. Shuffling and creating an angle also helps evade counter punches. As you can see here, Radim threw his left hook, but I dodged it. My toes actually clipped his head, and now I actually have a bruise on my toe from it. Another left hook from Radim, but I guess I snapped out of it and actually blocked it this time. I answered back with an outside low kick. As I mentioned at the beginning of the fight when I engaged, Radim would back up when I moved forward. So this time I made sure to take a step forward before kicking to close the distance. Again, it's important that I really utilize my footwork and close the distance when trying to strike Radim because he has a habit of backing up. So I really pushed off the ball of my rear foot and stepped deep in with my lead foot with a lead hook, which Radim leaned back to evade, but I caught him with my follow-up cross. Radim continued to back up, so I had to take a double step to land the low kick. I threw a shuffle lead high kick here to get Radim to think high again, and I stepped in with an inside low kick after. Here, I stepped in with another outside low kick, but he didn't back up. Radim just missed his left hook counter, and I ended up kicking way too close to him. Because I was too close, I knew my left hook would be in range. So from here, I used the momentum of my kicking leg retracting back into my stance to develop power into my left hook. Another inside low kick here, but I made sure to slip my head to the right to dodge Radim's counter left.
Pepper up the inside leg kick. He's known for that outside leg kick, and that's what Radim needs to do. He needs to make this dirty. He needs to get Chen out of his comfort zone.
In this next exchange, I use my hands to set up my inside low kick again, but Radim shoots on my inside low kick. I immediately get my whizzer in to defend. Radim attempted to trip me by hooking his right leg outside of my left leg, but I pulled my leg out and sprawled. But here Radim still had a hold of my one leg. It's a good thing that me and Xavier drilled this position in my fight camp a dozen times. Radim scrambled to his feet and looked for another outside leg trip takedown, but I reversed it and based on my left hand. We both rushed to get on top, but I beat him to it and ended up in his guard. Radim did a good job at controlling my posture and wrist so I couldn't ground and pound. My goal was to get inside control on the bicep, frame off his face or bicep to posture and punch or elbow. So again, bicep control and strike, and repeat. Now here Redeem did a great job at pushing me away by driving a shin across my body and pushing off, followed by push kicking me away. When your opponent starts stepping and pushing you, you want to stand up immediately and remove his feet off your hips. Again, this so happens to be exactly what Xavier had me drilling during my fight camp and warm up. I'm telling you guys, what you drill during training is what will come out during your fight. If you haven't seen my Prep to Spar and Fight program, I highly suggest you check it out in the description box below. So I popped up to my feet and started controlling his legs while pressing my hips forward and being really heavy. Anticipating him to continue trying to kick me away, I waited for it. As he kicked, I dragged his leg back and threw a punch. I ended up scrambling into his half guard. From here, my goal was to apply shoulder pressure by reaching my arm behind his neck and driving my shoulder into his face so that his face would turn towards my left side. I then tried to push off his thigh with my left shin to transition into mount, but as soon as I got to full mount, Redeem did a good job at getting his butterfly hook in. Now I was back into half guard again, but on the other side. I felt he wasn't really attacking or escaping, just holding and stalling, so I decided to rush it and I postured up to pound him. Redeem managed to get his shin across my belly again and pushed me off. From here I kept the pressure and looked to do some more damage to the thighs while showing dominance. As I moved close to Redeem, he began to upkick again and tried pushing me back. Once again, I applied exactly what I drilled in my training and dragged his leg and dropped down another big punch. And that was the end of round 1. Round 2, another shuffle lead high kick to get Redeem to think about the high kicks, and then I go back low. This time, I dart in with a cross followed by the low kick, but Redeem shoots on my low kick right away. Another drill that me and Xavier worked on in my fight camp here. So I sprawled my hips back and immediately cross-faced, reversing the takedown and landing in half guard once again. I used that same shoulder pressure explained earlier to make him face the opposite direction while I used my left arm to scoop under Redeem's right arm. I then walked my hand up towards his head to trap his arm. With his arm trapped, I was able to slip my leg into quarter guard. If his arm was free, he would be able to push my leg and stop me from getting into quarter guard. My next step was to pass the full mount position, but Redeem pushed off the cage to try to roll me over. He managed to get me off balance, so I popped back onto my feet and went for that same leg drag again. I almost passed the side mount, but Redeem had good guard retention and brought his left knee to his chest and his left shin against my belly. In another attempt to pass his guard, I stepped to my right foot and thrusted my hip forward, which popped his legs forward and gave me his back. And as soon as I saw the back, I grabbed onto it, just as I drilled with Xavier during my fight camp and warm up for the fight. So I quickly shot my right arm over the neck and gable grip with my underhook hand to get the seatbelt grip, followed by my right leg hook, then my left leg hook. Then I pushed off my right foot and fell to my underhook arm. Then I sunk my choking arm under the neck. Keep in mind that even though my arm is under the neck, I still had a gable grip with my hands. Because Redeem was trying to defend with both arms, he was not basing with his hands, which allowed me to flip him over into back mount. From back mount, I then switched my gable grip to the rear naked choke grip. As I squeezed for the tap, I drove my hips to the ground as I flared my legs into the air, which applied a lot of pressure. You guys already know that a lot of the things I showcase in my platform I personally use or are effective for me. So my courses are designed to help you guys in the same way. If you haven't checked them out already, give them a chance in the description box below.